Ladies and gentlemen, there are three very important issues that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris just haven't brought up on the campaign trail so far, and based on what the rest of their schedule is looking like, we aren't ever going to get a definitive answer or any probing questions regarding this stuff, and I think I'm going to do their job for them because I'm just such a nice guy and I'm looking out for their best interests. It's some stuff that's directly off their campaign website, and most of Joe's and Kamala's not too distant past. So first and foremost, we're going to take a look at something that you guys probably know a fair amount about when it comes to Joe Biden. He's been very specific on a couple of things that he has pushed forward throughout the years. He's very much for the over-prosecution of minorities, just like his running mate. He desperately wants to get rid of your Second Amendment rights, and he's been very consistent in that as well. And thirdly, he just loves the little shimmer on patent leather shoes. So right off of his website here, we got the Biden plan to end our gun violence epidemic. He is easily, without a doubt, 100% the most anti-Second Amendment candidate that the Democrats have ever put forward. Ever, bar none. Like, you guys remember in 1994, Biden, along with Senator Dianne Feinstein, noted crypt keeper herself, secured the passage of a 10-year ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines as President Joe Biden will defeat the NRA again. And guess what? That was never renewed. And in 2004, it really did very little because, as you can remember, there were several mass shootings that took place between 94 and 2004. Columbine, anybody remember that one? Yeah, that was 1999, right smack dab in the middle. But what most people don't remember is they were using handguns and shotguns. So it really doesn't much matter if you're getting rid of the weapons of war, assault weapons. Crazy people are going to do crazy shit regardless. And everything else that Joe Biden has pushed forward when he was in the Senate and then as vice president as well, has been overturned or ruled unconstitutional. So he's, as much as he got that one temporary ban in place, he's gotten his shit pushed in by the NRA ever since. So, you know, you take one, you lose 50. There's a bunch of weasel words in this entire platform that he has when it comes to curtailing gun violence. So he wants to enact a total 100% ban on assault weapons. He wants to get weapons of war off of our streets. What does that mean? Like we've been through a bunch of times, I hate weasel words when it comes in writing laws. Like, you need to be specific so there can be no room for misinterpretation and not being able to read the law as it's been written. When you say ridiculous shit like weapons of war or assault weapons, scary black rifles, that leaves a lot of fucking wiggle room, right? Because, okay, do you ban the AK-47 that is black, but you let the same one that has wood paneling on it not be banned because it doesn't look like one of your scary assault weapons? You need to be specific. This is ridiculous. But that's not even the most nefarious part. Ban the manufacture and sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. So he wants to do the same goofy shit that California just repealed their ban on high-capacity magazines, actually. Yeah, just as of August 17th, California's ban on high-capacity gun magazines violates Second Amendment. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled. So Joe Biden just wants to supersede what the courts have to say and ban everything at a federal level because that's what he likes to do, especially when it comes to masks and anything else that Joe Biden deems appropriate, like head coverings for small children. And he wants to head down the old slippery slope of eventually a nationwide buyback program. Regulate possession of existing assault weapons under the National Firearms Act. Currently, the National Firearms Act requires individuals possessing machine guns. Machine guns, if they're trying to scare people into thinking that people have fully automatic machine guns that aren't in the military or ones that haven't been grandfathered in that are World War II era relics, they don't exist very much, okay? And fully automatics have been banned for a very long time, and if they want to try to conflate fully automatic and semi-automatic, it's not going to be a very successful try to push everything through. But if he's going to uses executive powers to try to legislate this, then I guess the sky's the limit. Silencers and short-barreled rifles to undergo a background check. Now, what does he mean by short-barreled rifles? Once again, just more a vague terminology to eventually ban everything that you can point and shoot. Eventually, starter pistols will get fucking banned. To undergo background checks and register those weapons with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, the ATF. You know what? This is another popular Democrat, even... You don't even have to go as far to say leftist. This is a popular Democrat talking point, and even uneducated Republicans on the subject think that, oh yeah, we should have more background checks. In every single state, you have to go through a national background check in order to buy any sort of firearm. Like, I got fucking regular old Nevada, okay? The one where it's got all those famous gun shops you know and love. The ones where you can actually go in and fire, you know, a old school Tommy gun or a fucking big belt fed large machine gun. But as it says right here, a background check is required for all firearms purchases in Nevada, including shotguns. The background check is good for 30 days or a single transaction. You can buy multiple guns in a single transaction. You have to go through background checks. I don't know how much more clear this is. You can type in any state across the entire union and background checks are going to be there first and foremost. So I don't know what the fuck you want. You want more background checks? Well, there's already background checks written into law. How about you just enforce the laws that are there? Nah, if we just keep lying to people, like they're probably doing about so many things, but this video can only be so long before you guys click off. It just goes to show how the Democrats love to run on a platform of fear. But how about buy back the assault weapons and high capacity magazines already in our communities? Guess what? Soft buyback coming. Reduce stockpiling of weapons. In order to reduce the stockpiling of firearms, Biden supports legislating restricting the number of firearms an individual may purchase per month to 1. So in case of mass rioting, like there's going to be, I don't know, from November 3rd until November or until Thanksgiving when it gets too cold. Like, okay, let's say if you live in a typical American family, you have yourself, your significant other, 2.3 kids. Let's say you and your spouse need to protect your family. You're going out and you're anticipating some sort of violence. Or hey, even if you are a fucking hunter, let's say you and a buddy want to go take your wives out hunting. Where I live, it's a very popular thing for couples to do. I kind of live out in the middle of nowhere, honestly. It's a big city, but big is relative to where we're at. You're telling me if people just fresh out, they've got their fucking camo gear and they're all ready to go, but Clyde is the only one who can buy a 30-06, and Brittany's going to have to wait until the end of next month before she can buy a rifle of her own. All you're doing is incentivizing illegal activities, because if they're going to go out hunting, that bitch is still going to be shooting a rifle. Okay? Just like your stupid mask enforcement. Unless you have cops peeking around in the middle of the fucking bush. Good luck, pal. And this is another one that's patently stupid. Keep guns out of dangerous hands. If you are convicted of a felony, you are not allowed to own a firearm. Regardless if it's a white-collar crime or if it's murder. Once you are convicted and you are free, you cannot own a firearm. I don't think for any non-violent crime, if you've committed a non-violent felony, you should be able to have your Second Amendment rights restored. But you vote Biden, that'll never happen. Never, ever, ever. Like, listen to this. This is on the official website. I'm still not pulling up any other fucking secondary source. Biden will enact universal background check legislation. Know that there's universal background checks. And close other loopholes that allow people who should be prohibited from purchasing firearms from making those purchases. You love to hear those fucking gun show loopholes. And we're going to get to another one, which I'm going to debunk, the gun show loophole. It fucking accounts for next to naught of the purchases that are made. Here's one. Require background checks for all gun sales. I can't fucking believe this guy. I can't believe this. Today, an estimated 1 in 5 firearms are sold or transferred without a background check. They link to a study. In 1994, 40% of U.S. gun owners who had recently acquired a firearm did so without a background check. No contemporary estimates exist. Oh my gosh, this study was done in 2017. Okay, what did they find? 22% of gun owners who reported obtaining their most recent firearms did within the previous 2 years reported doing so without a background check. For firearms purchased privately within the previous 2 years, that is, other than from a store or a pawn shop, including sales between individuals or person online or at gun shows, 50% were obtained without a background check. Oh my god, this percentage was 26% of owners residing in states regulating private firearm sales, and 57% of those living in states without regulations on private firearm sales. Oh my god, it's like people are already doing something that is apparently illegal, and there's already laws on the books for this. How about you just enforce the laws that are already there, Joe? A disingenuous asshole. Now here's one that's really, really retarded. Close the loopholes in federal background check system. In addition to closing the boyfriend loophole highlighted below, Biden will reinstate the Obama-Biden policy to keep guns out of the hands of certain people unable to manage their affairs for mental reasons, which President Trump reversed. They got me thinking, because I've never heard of the boyfriend loophole before. Maybe that's me being just ignorant to the rules, but I had to look it up myself. So, this is old box wine mom here. During one of the primary debates, the boyfriend loophole means that if you commit a serious crime of domestic abuse against your wife, you can't get a gun. But if you do it against your girlfriend, you can. Something seems off considering the fact that if you commit domestic violence, normally you cannot obtain a new firearm. And whenever you are suspected of committing domestic assault, the police tend to take your firearms away from you because you are a risk to offend again. Happened famously to Anthony Cumia, so I'll just cite that case. So I won't go through the blow for what stupid Klobuchar has to say, but I'll have this linked in the description as usual. Federal law bars anyone convicted of a felony from possessing a firearm. Yeah, this is on PolitiFact too, so you know that they wanted to be the most charitable institution they possibly can towards any Democrat. But the gun prohibition, as cited by Klobuchar's campaign, also is imposed on people convicted of misdemeanor domestic violence. And there you go. That's what I explained to you. PolitiFact checked it, and case closed. Case closed. There really is no loophole there, you disingenuous old hack. And here's where it should get saucy. More people should know about this because we see all the censorship that's happening right now with big tech. And we see the mainstream media not covering a fucking lick of the Hunter Biden emails, except for a couple of organizations making just little asks of Joe Biden's campaign, like a Fox correspondent asking, are any of those things true? And then old man goes into an Alzheimer's fit of rage and, okay, I won't ask any more follow-ups because I'd still like my access, please, thank you. But with all of the censorship that's currently going on, end the online sales of firearms and ammunition. Barely anybody's brought this up, but this is huge. Biden will enact legislation to prohibit all online sales of firearms, ammunitions, kits, and gun parts. Holy shit. And that's all it says. And that's very comprehensive. That's very vague, and it's very widespread right there. So if you want to buy anything from one of their scary rifles to a scope, a cleaning kit, a box of rounds, or a new stock for your hunting rifle, all of that would be gone. It would be gone. This right here is the most comprehensive example of infringing upon any right in the Constitution. This is totally reprehensible. And the fact that I haven't heard more about this just goes to show you how much coverage the Biden campaign is getting. Next to none. It's just all fluff pieces and nobody's digging into the substantive. And what actually isn't even detailed on this list here is going back up to the buyback of assault weapons and high capacity magazines. He's going to, of course, do one of his favorite tactics. Tax the American people. Biden's gun agenda could cost AR-15 owners $3.6 billion in taxes on firearms they already own. Published just a little over a week ago. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's proposed gun control policy includes a provision that could require every AR-15, which is just a platform, okay? It is not an assault rifle 15, which a lot of people understand it as. It is merely a type of rifle. It's not a specific rifle. Be registered under the National Firearms Act of 1934. A piece of legislation wrote when Biden was in his second term in the Senate. Unless there were some form of carve-out, This could mandate the American gun owner pay a $200 federal tax per AR-15 they own. National Rifle Association's Andrew Arulanadam, should be close, told Breitbart News that the current low-end estimate of privately owned AR-15s in the United States is $18 million. A $200 tax on 18 million AR-15 means that gun owners could potentially be required to pay a collective $3.6 billion in taxes if the policy were enacted into legislation. So Biden doesn't want to charge you for crimes that you may commit. He wants to charge you for sins of the father, what he would consider to be a sin of the father, by just simply exercising your Second Amendment right. Like I said in the beginning, there is no single candidate that has ever been put forth that could be more destructive to the Second Amendment. And I think you guys should know that. And Joe Biden taxing things like firearms is not exclusive to that platform. He has also been a vehement critic of everybody's favorite pastime to criticize. Joe Biden, just like Jack Thompson of the early 2000s, has a fucking hard-on for violent video games. Joe Biden sees no legal reason why we can't tax violent video games. And this one isn't new. Nobody talks about it anymore because nobody takes violent video games seriously, or video games seriously, even though it is probably the most... I don't have any of the numbers pulled up, but it is probably the most profitable media industry right now, considering Hollywood is at a complete standstill and everything that they've been pumping out lately has been objective shit, let's be completely honest, post-lockdown. Yet you don't see all of those Biden-supporting green-haired assholes in games journalism complaining about the fact that Biden would continue to hike prices for the next generation of consoles. Meanwhile, new games on the PS5 and the Xbox One X, or Series X, sorry. I'm so out of consoles, go fuck your hat. I got a beast of a fucking rig that I do my recording on. Yeah, the price tag on new games is $70 in the US, and I think it'll be whatever, close to $100. Well, it is close to $100 in the fucking UK. Yeah, for a standard edition game, and that's not even going up to your fucking deluxe plastic statue edition. I'm sure it'll be somewhere around $80 or $90 up here in Canada, which is fucking incentive enough not to support their social justice leanings anymore. See The Last of Us Part 2, for example, of how to destroy a beloved franchise. But I digress. I've got a couple more tangents that I want to get onto before we move on from point number 2, the fact that Joe Biden hates violent video games. I'm not exactly sure why a closed-door meeting about gun legislation would be held with Joe Biden and 20 religious representatives, unless we're finally admitting that people love guns so fervently. In the US, it's a kind of religion here and of itself. Forbes editorializing, of course. It should be no surprise that these representatives wanted to blame video games as a significant contributing factor to many of these gun-related killing sprees as late. Franklin Graham, son of legendary evangelist Billy Graham, suggested that violent video games should be taxed extra. Now, I think that there's an old proverb called heathens pray in public, and all of those evangelists are the grifters of the highest order, hence why they'd be hanging out with Democrats. I digress. It's not the first time such a question has been made, but more troubling as Vice President Biden's response to it. I love China. Oh no, Biden floated the idea that media and entertainment that portray violence should be subject to a special tax, with the proceeds going to help victims and their families. Let me read that again. Floated the idea that media and entertainment that portray violence should be subject to a special tax. Why? Fucking why? There is no concrete evidence out there that violent video games, shooters, are leading to any more violent behavior. In fact, the only evidence out there is quite to the contrary, in fact, that it acts as a kind of mental decompression, with the exception of this year. Potentially, I haven't seen the final crime numbers for this year because, well, we still have another 10 weeks left of 2020, which is bizarre to think about in and of itself. Violent crime has trended downward since the popularization of video games, was starting with the NES in '86. So I don't know what the purpose of as Vice President Biden would call it, a sin tax on violent video games. But this was 2013. Maybe he's changed his opinion in the later years. Violent video games, not healthy, but aren't in and of itself why we have this carnage. Nope, he's still on message, all the way up to 2019. Former Vice President Joe Biden on Monday said the violent video games are unhealthy, but would not point to them as a reason for mass shootings after President Trump named the games as a factor behind such incidents. This just goes to show you that it's also an old man thing. They don't really understand what the fuck's going on, but wouldn't have a problem with a Steven Seagal karate chop putting motherfuckers out. But yeah, you kill a virtual demon in Doom and that leads to, I don't know, fucking Virginia Tech. It is not healthy to have these games teaching the kids the dispassionate notion that you can shoot somebody and just, you know, the thing, sort of blow their brains out. Oh my god. Well, it looks like Biden's been a victim of this since August of 2019. Biden, the 2020 Democratic presidential frontrunner, said in an interview with CNN, but it's not in and of itself the reason why we have this carnage in our streets. Oh, please tell us more, Saint Biden. The president said that gruesome and grisly video games make it easy for troubled youth to surround themselves with a culture that celebrates violence, while also condemning hatred and white supremacy. So remember during the first presidential debate when everybody was running around like a chicken with their head cut off saying that President Trump hasn't denounced white supremacy or he wouldn't before? But we got an article here in regards to what I'm covering and it says explicitly that he also condemned hatred and white supremacy. Yeah, the media's fucked, people. But okay, Biden said that's not the sole reason. That's not the sole reason. Okay, cool. He's doing something nice. He's hedging his bets a little bit, but we got one more that's kind of closer. That's a lot closer to today's date. We know that Biden loves to flip-flop on shit, so at least maybe we can see what the most recent opinion he holds is. Joe Biden called a billionaire video game maker a little creep who makes games to teach you how to kill people. Okay, so he went from having a softer stance to a much more difficult stance to defend. Like I've said a bunch of times, it's a platform video games are for decompressing and for a lot of people to congregate around a shared passion. I love video games. I have several thousand on my Steam account. I've been collecting games all the way back since the Super Nintendo age, and my first console was a Sega Genesis with Sonic 2. Not to brag, but I've been in a handful of fist fights, and I've never shot anybody, but I do like to get passionate in videos, I guess. Not Hunter Biden passionate, but comedic effect passionate, I hope. Democratic presidential candidate and former Vice President Joe Biden is no fan of video game creators, apparently. Biden called an unnamed video game developer a little creep and described their games as a means or to teach you how to kill people. This is the most awkward way that he could phrase that. In a recently published interview with the New York Times, bizarrely, Biden wasn't answering a question about video games. Bizarrely, he's mistaken President Trump for Abraham Lincoln and a man named George. Did you guys see that clip? I'll throw it up here right now.
What kind of country we're going to be? 4 more years of Georgia, he's going to find ourselves in a position where if Trump gets elected, we're going to be in a different world.
Doesn't it look like Jill just wanted to put her hands in her head and just, I don't know, escape from Earth during that situation? Ugh, what a fucking cringe moment. But speaking of cringe moment, we got our final segment, and I'll throw to a lovely little clip that the Trump campaign put up this morning for to perfectly explain what we're going to be talking about for our final talking point.
Senator, as you know, there's an approximate 12 million undocumented immigrants in the United States, many or most of whom lack health insurance. First, does your plan for universal coverage include them? And if not, how do you propose that you pay for their care when they interact with the healthcare system?
No, in truth, it does not. It does not cover it, so no undocumented alien would be qualified for what I've proposed here.
President Biden, I believe you said that your health care plan would not cover undocumented immigrants. Could you explain your position?
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon.
I believe at the show of hands, you did not raise your hand. Did you raise your hand?
No, I did.
Okay, sorry. So you said they would be covered under your plan, which is different than Obamacare.
Yes.
So not only during the final debate did he say that there's going to be a path to citizenship for the 11 million illegal aliens that are in the United States as of right now, he's also going to provide them all with health care on your dime under his Bidencare plan, which adds a public option, which is, of course, soft socialized medicine. Well, and he also says, well, just for clarification, because the clip was short and it showed 13 years ago, 2007, and earlier in 2019. Biden on healthcare for undocumented, fuck that, illegal immigrants. How do you say I'm not gonna let you die? I don't know, no boy dejarte morir. I think that's how you'd say it. Undocumented immigrants should have access to health care, former Vice President Joe Biden said in a CNN interview released Friday, and he even doubled down on it. And yeah, this is the same guy who has consistently said that he will end fracking, which you've seen a multitude of times out there, and on the debate stage has flip-flopped saying that no, we're just going to transition out of the fossil fuel industry. It's hard to pin Joe Biden down on what he actually believes. And if you don't think that AOC, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris aren't going to topple Grandpa over and just enact their socialist agenda, you are clearly out of your fucking skull. I don't know what else to tell you. But these are three very important points that nobody's talking about. The fact that he's coming for your guns, he's coming for your video games, and he's going to give them all to illegal aliens. That and whatever's left of your paycheck at the end of the month. So I thought that these three topics needed a specific outlet, and the more you know, the better a choice you can make. But I thank you very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you guys to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.